start going through this one just as an example so that we can kind of see. I know that most of you probably finished this assignment, but I want to kind of go through some of it, talk about linking in all of our pages, linking in images, and things like that. Okay, so I believe they say here's images here. Cool, so I'm gonna go ahead, we'll grab this real quick. Looks like it's just that one image. Open a new tab. Then let's go Coding Dojo, Web Fun, Okay, so within demo, in here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, call it images. Okay, and then paste that Python to PNG file. Okay, so my format, or my file structure, there we go, is I have my index.html, my style.css, and my images all right next to each other. Okay, so this will be important for when we start linking things in. Right, so we have all three of those that are sitting right next to each other. Okay, and then inside of images, I have my Python file there. Okay, so let's start just by grabbing that stuff. All right, so I'm going to grab the link inside the href. I'm just going to say style.css. All right, I'm in the same folder, so I shouldn't need to specify anything else. However, if I do, I can say /style.css. Right, so remember, the dot means stay in this folder, all right, or the folder that I'm in, and then the slash is saying inside of that folder, right? So it's in the folder I'm in, or inside of the folder that I'm already in. Go find this style.css. Okay, and then we can validate that here. If I come up and do an ls-a here, you can see that I have this dot right here. That represents the folder that I'm currently in. Okay, so if I do a pwd, which is print working directory, you can kind of see where exactly I'm at. Now if I cd or change directory to dot, hit enter, run, where am I again? I'm still in the exact same spot, right? So that dot slash is just referencing the folder that I'm currently in. Usually you don't need it. Sometimes you might, but for now I'm just going to leave it as style.css. Okay. So I always like starting with just putting a wrapper that's going to hold everything. Okay. And let's go ahead and going to access that wrapper, and we'll say we'll give you a width of 1200 pixels and a height, we'll say a minimum height of just 100 pixels to start with, and a background color of light gray. Okay, and this is just for me to make sure that my CSS is linked in. Okay, so that's one thing I always like to do at the very beginning. Just get something on the page to make sure that my CSS is linked correctly, because I might be writing a bunch of CSS, updating it, changing it, thinking, you know, why isn't this working? So I always do something like this just to throw it in there and say, is everything linked up correctly? Once I know it is, then I can go and keep adding everything in to make sure that, or, you know, just to continue to develop. Go ahead, Ed.
No.
Did you have a question?
I think you had a question.
Oh, you had a question. Okay.
So right there, we put the wrapper.
Mhm.
Other times, I put in the what's that star one, little.
Oh yeah, this guy right
Yeah,
here.
and then I put margin 0, padding
Whoops.
0, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is there a difference with that?
Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna. Okay, so what's the difference between these two? This wrapper is just referencing this one div. Okay, the star says grab or reference every single item in the entire page.
That takes away the default settings. Right?
Yeah, right. So if I did that, what is it? Margin 0, border 0.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of the default
I think it's
padding. I don't know. I'll just zero out everything. All right, so you can see right now it has some space between the top and that guy. That will remove all those spaces. Just default it to being gone. Yeah, it's called the CSS reset. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do here on this is give it a margin of 0 auto. Okay, and what we'll see, that's going to move that into the center of my page. right? So if you remember, the format of these is if I just give it two values, give this property two values, what is the first value referencing?
Top and bottom.
Top and bottom, right? So I'm saying set the top and bottom equal to a 0 margin because I don't need those. And then the auto, the second value, what is the second value? Left and right. Okay, so the auto is saying calculate it so that the left and right are the exact same. Okay, now this works because, so let's come in and inspect here. This works because this div is the full width, right? Okay, so the size of, or the space that my div is taking up is wider than the width that I've set for this div. Okay, so the margin 0 auto allows me to do that. If I was already taking up the full space, right, so if I were to take this width off, margin 0 auto is pretty useless because I've already expanded to the full width of my parent elements. Okay, go ahead.
So you have your entire screen is 950 pixels, correct? Or is that the playroom on the screen?
Each screen. What do you mean?
From left to right.
Each one is Each screen is different. This one is
okay.
about 1900.
Well, like in CSS, when I saw the tutorials that I was reading, it's like 950 the entire bit. So I was just confused. Why would you get 1200 pixels as opposed to if it's 950?
Oh, this one, yeah. So this one is just I just randomly picking 1200. I think 950 is the breaking point for when it goes from a tablet to no tablets. I think it's bigger than that. But yeah, we're not worried about responsiveness or anything like that. We're just building a static site right now. Go ahead, Brandon.
So we're not later on going to be using margin auto very often. We want our websites to.
I mean, you can always use margin 0 auto. Yeah, it's just I just wanted to make sure that you understand that doesn't always center things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can. I mean, you can use it anywhere you want.
Do most developers use it though? Like,
yeah.
They want the.
Yeah, it's a very common fix to center something in the center of the page. Yeah, that's if you were to Google center HTML element, my guess is the very first option would be a margin 0 auto. There you go. All right. So, yeah, very common thing to use. If it's not working, just know that's probably because of the width of the parent element is already maxed, or the element that you're in is not wide enough for it to actually adjust it. Okay, cool. All right, so let's come take a quick look back over here. Okay, so we have these two sections, right? That's just kind of this top nav section right there. So let's go ahead and let's start by creating that. Okay, so I have my blue my wrapper that is wrapping the entire page. Then if I look, it looks like I kind of have these like three different sections. So what I think I'll do is create a div to wrap this top section, and then another div to wrap the middle section, and then another div to wrap the bottom section. Okay, that's just visually, that seems like it should work out all right. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and let's go ahead and we'll give this one, we'll just call it top section. Okay, and that's going to represent this top blue area. Okay, then I'm going to create another one called top nav. All right, and now top nav will represent this first section up here. Okay, and then we'll start diving into it. All right, so just breaking down top section, right, which we're in right now. I'm thinking top section up here, then top nav, and then maybe like a middle nav, and then this main content section will hold all of that. Okay, so that's kind of my general thought process of where to go from here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see if we can't grab this guy real quick, just so we get a nice color. There we go. Cool. So I'm going to give top section. Let's come back to here. And I'm going to give top section a background color of that. Okay, so right now I don't have any information in there, right? It's empty. So that's fine. So it's not going to show yet. Also, I haven't saved that. That may be another reason why it's not working. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So within top nav, if I look at this, I have kind of a left image and then this right guy over here. So what I'm going to do, what I'm thinking is I'll add in an image here and then another div that will take up that space. Okay. So let's start by adding in our image. And our source, how am I going to access the source? What's the path? Yeah, go ahead, Noah.
Normally you would have the image in that folder, the images, and you just put in the name PNG.
Yeah. So we go. So we're going to images/python.png. Okay, and we can just give it an alt of Python
Yeah,
image.
Normally when I put in my images,
Yeah.
I just click and drag them onto from the folder I saved them on, and then they just appear on there.
Really? I've never tried that before.
Oh no, yeah, then I just type it in. But I meant like when I grab my pictures
Oh,
from the folder instead of
so
making
they're
a
on-
folder within that.
It's called images.
Yeah.
Best practice would be to create an images
Oh,
folder.
okay.
Cool. So let's go ahead and check and see if that is now on the page correctly. Cool. That looks pretty good. It looks kind of like what we want it to look. All right. So that looks good. And if let's just inspect really quickly. Cool. So it's not taking up. You can see it's not taking up the full width. So that's good. So I'm going to go ahead down here, and I'm going to create. We'll call this nav left. We'll call it nav left. Okay. And nav left is what's going to hold this section over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's just start with a little p tag that just says text size, just so we can get a bit idea of what it's looking like currently on the page. Okay, so you can see here that this is dropped down. Did you have a question, Steven?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So you can see that it's down on the bottom side over here, right? So what do I need to do if I want to get this div up over here? Inline block. All right, so we're gonna trade. We're gonna set the display property of nav left to be inline block. Okay, so we're gonna come up here. We'll say nav left. Display is inline block. Okay, and let's go ahead and just give it a width of 600 pixels. Okay, we refresh that. Cool. All right. So if we inspect that, nav left, right? It's kind of sitting over here, but that's all right. Okay. Now, right now it's at the bottom, right? But I want this text size to be at the top. How might I fix that?
Vertical align.
What was that?
Vertical align.
Vertical align top. Perfect. Right. So let's go ahead and say vertical align top. Okay, and that should adjust this so that it's at the top. Perfect. I like that. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say text align right. And hopefully that will move it all over to the right side. There we go. Okay. Just for now, I'm also going to go ahead and say anything that's a child of, or anything that is a descendant of nav left. Let's just give it a white color text. And I'll probably end up changing that, but that's just so that I can see this, at least for right now. Okay. Cool. Now, if I look over here, it looks like there's a little bit of spacing up there. So how could we add a little bit of spacing between the top of the page and this text size? Yeah, we can do a little bit of a margin here. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's just give it a margin top of 10 pixels. Margin. There we go. Cool. And that kind of separates it off, right? So 10 pixels look good. Yeah, go ahead.
On the margin, when I ran something like that on the test, it also came back with a stripe across it. Is that because I wrote that function incorrectly, or is that element?
So a couple of reasons. One would be that it, like you said, it's typed. There's some sort of typo in there, and so it can't read it. The other would be that there's some other styling that's overriding that, and so it's not going to be using that.
Yeah,
Those are the two
and
reasons.
also, it didn't put the strike, and it just wouldn't show up. And I knew it was right, verbiage or whatever, but it just wouldn't show up on the screen.
Yeah, so it
Is it
may be that
pixels?
something else was overriding it. Yeah, so something else had a higher score essentially, and so it was taking that. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, all right. So we have that text. So now we have these like two buttons, which are normal, or like link-looking things, which are normal and large. So let's just go ahead. There's a few different ways we can do this. For now, let's just make it all in one line. All right, so we'll say normal and large. And then I'm just going to style these two guys specifically. So let's go ahead and add in a span. Not spam. Span. There we go. And I'll cut that. Paste it there. We'll add another one.
Span's just kind of like a note, right? You put on your code for later on referencing it on CSS.
It's not so much a note as it allows me to target specific
Like that
text or
normal
something
thing.
inside of another tag without affecting its styling.
Oh, because I've used font color, and then like, for example, like blue or something. It makes that specific word within that paragraph that color.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that like okay too, or?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But basically, what it's doing, let me do this real quick. Basically, what it's saying is we're allowed to alter this text in some way without changing the other, like the rest of that tag. Yeah. So if we go do that yellow underline class, right? We'll say color yellow. Oops. Yellow, and then we can say text decoration underline. Okay, so if we come back, ooh, okay, so let's inspect. Okay, so we can see that its color is yellow here, right? But it's not. That's not working because we have this guy up here, right? So this one overrode the yellow, right? Because it used the ID, which is 100, right? And then plus the element tag. So the score of this is stronger than the score of that one. Okay, so here I'm going to, just for the sake of time, I'm going to cheat, throw on important. Yay, I win. Okay, cool. Probably the better way to do that would be to just add a class to this specific p tag. So what we could do is call it like white text or something like that, so that we're targeting that. And we'll change this to .white text. Okay, and then if we take off this important, then it stays the same because both of these, the white text and the yellow underline have the same score, and so it just used whichever one was implemented last, right? So this one is more recent and it's directly on the element, so it will allow us to do it. Now in this case, doesn't have any functionality, so we'd probably have those as links or something else like that on a real page, but here I'm not too worried about that. Okay, wouldn't be that much different. Go ahead.
So on a test, would it be okay to use important?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So now we have this little search box right here that looks like it has a nice black background to it. Okay, so once again, I'm going to create a div here, and we'll call this the search div. Okay, so let's go ahead, and then it looks like we just have an input type of text. And it says search, right? So let's go ahead and we can do this thing called placeholder, and that will kind of give us that faded gray value. Okay. Now I'm going to add in another button, the submit button that says go. Okay. Or I can just do this as a button. Let's do it this way. Okay. So let's come back and refresh our page, see what that looks like. Okay, so that looks pretty good. if we inspect here, let's take a look at what our div is looking like. All right, so that div takes up that whole width, which I want to be able to add a background color, right? So if we do search div, background color, maybe like a dark gray, it's going to highlight that whole thing, which not really what I want. So let's go ahead and give it a width of 150 pixels just to start with. Okay, cool. So inspect. There we go. All right. Now all this stuff is inside of it. We do want this to align right. We have the search div. Okay, so let's go ahead and say let's just leave. Well, actually, we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's just make it look a little bit nicer. We'll give it a padding of 10 pixels. Okay, and this go button is really small. So is that search thing. So let's go ahead and just target both of those elements. Okay, so we can see that they're inside of search div. So what I'm going to do is say we'll go search, search div, input, and we'll just give it a padding of let's give that a padding of 10 pixels, and we'll give this a padding of 20. Okay, so that's made that a little bit bigger. If we inspect, okay, so that looks a little bit better. And then let's do the same thing to this button. Let's give it a padding of 10 pixels and see how much bigger that goes. That looks good. Blue. Okay, so we probably want to, let's make this guy a little bit bigger. Okay, so we can see that it may be, well, let's go ahead and just set the width to 200 pixels. There we go. So now it's kind of sitting up next to it. Okay. So now you can see the text align right is not moving it all over, right? So what we're going to need to do, let's actually come back and make these changes really quick. So we'll say search div. There's that. And then the button, search div button, also has a padding of 10 pixels and a background color of, perfect. Okay. So let's inspect here and let's figure out, right? So we have our situation right now is that we have this div, right, that is floated to the right, or not floated, excuse me, text aligned to the right. Then we have this one as well, but when we reduce the width, right, when we took the width off of there, it moved all of this over. Okay, so there's a few different things that that we could do. Once we add the width back in, we could also try doing like a margin left of 250 pixels, right? So that starts to move it over a bit. We can, let's just do 300 pixels. Okay, 350, 375. Nope. Let's line it up like right. 360. That looks good. Okay, and then let's go ahead and give it a border radius. Kind of round off the corners. And same thing, we'll give it a margin top so it kind of pushes away. Okay. So if we look, that looks pretty good. Dun. All right. So I'm going to go and copy all this stuff from the search div again, just so I don't have to memorize everything that I've done. Refresh our page. Okay, cool. So that looks like maybe we should get this a little bit darker. So let's go ahead and change a couple of the colors. We'll Drag this down.
It's got a shadow as well.
It does, you're right. Okay, so let's go like that dark. So I'm gonna copy this over and paste that there. And then I'm gonna grab this one. Let's see, what color is this button actually? Alright, it's blue. It looks like it has a little bit of a white border as well. Yeah. Okay, so we'll say button, same background color. We'll give it a border. 1 pixel solid white. Make sure the color's white. Let's see how that's looking. Okay, cool. That looks all right. So now, yeah, let's talk about this box shadow. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit of a hint. And somebody was very nice, created a nice little box shadow generator. So I can come over here and see, all right, where do I want to adjust it? Maybe like that. We'll kind of keep it, let's see, let's move it a little bit over here. Up just a bit. Blur that out a little bit more. Right there. Cool. Generates that code for me. So I'll copy that, put that in my button. When I save, come back over here. There you go. That's not where I wanted it. I want it in this guy, I believe, right?
You have to keep all that, or you just keep box shadow?
We can just keep box shadow, but it's going to be useful to have everything. There. So now we have a nice little box shadow on that
I
guy.
mean, it's probably out of the scope, but if you got a gradient on the background, is there a way? I'm sure there's a way to do that too, right?
Yeah, so here it's for like this guy down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get to that. There's also, I believe, there's alright, yeah. So you can kind of play with that and say, okay, I want it to come, or alright, so if that looks good to me, then I can I'll just grab that and I'll paste that in top section. And that would probably give me something. Yeah. So then it just kind of looks a little bit. I mean, these colors aren't exact, but why not just leave it at that for now? Or what we could do is just make sure. Let's grab this guy. Yeah. Grab that guy and just have all of them start there. So it starts a little bit darker at least. Yeah, and starts a little bit darker. Okay. Cool. All right. So that looks pretty good. That is our top section. Okay. So if we come over here, top nav is complete. Okay. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of top start top nav, and then right here, add another one that says end top nav. All right. Just so I can a little bit easier kind of section everything off here. Okay, so here we go, and I'm gonna now make our middle nav. Okay, and I'll space. Okay, so I'm also gonna make another start mid nav. This is just for me, right? Another little thing to help me clearly see what I'm doing, and that allows me to make sure that I don't have any like overlap from from one div to another, because it's very clearly marked out. Hey, this is where it starts, this is where it ends. Okay. Okay, so if we look at this, it looks like this is going to be even narrower. So let's go ahead and on middle nav, middle nav, let's go ahead and we'll give it a width of 900 pixels, and we'll say margin 0 auto. Yeah, let's give it a min height of just 5 pixels for now, just so that we can make sure that we see it. Okay. And it looks like it's like a lighter blue color. Okay. So grab that, and we'll say we'll give it that background color. Let's also just give it a border radius really quick. Alright, that'll just give us a little bit of an idea. Alright, that's really short. Let's, just for now, we'll give it a little bit taller. Okay. Cool. So that's what it looks like right now. We'll adjust that a little bit. Okay, so we have basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these links in here right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's make a class here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and we'll just scroll down so we can add these in all real quick. About, downloads, documentation, community, news, events. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. All right, so that's not super pretty, right? Not exactly what we want it to look like yet. So let's go ahead and we're going to say middle nav ULLI. Okay, and let's go ahead and say text decoration none, and display, let's make them inline block. Okay, cool. So now they're at least sitting next to each other, one by one, right? Let's also give them the color of white so that we can see them a little bit. Nice. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead now that I have that, I'm going to take off my minimum height from this just so that I can use some other stuff to manipulate that.
Real quick,
Yeah.
For the less than UL and can you explain that again?
Yeah, so I'm saying find the middle nav, the element with an ID of middle nav, and then target any of its children that, or basically it's saying find its children that are UL and then children of that are LI. So here we have middle nav, children is a UL, children of that is LI. So I'm targeting down
Do you
into
have to add
those.
those brackets after the ID tag? Yeah, right there.
These guys?
Yeah.
No, it's just being very specific about which ones to
Okay,
target.
because I typed it out without that.
Yeah, and that will target anything that's a descendant of those. Here I'm being very specific about which ones.
So
I'm
even though
targeting.
I put the ID and then the UL and the LI, I still should put those.
So that will target any, like if it doesn't matter where inside that div it is, it will grab all of them.
Oh, okay.
This is saying only grab these specific ones that are right inside.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then let's see. So let's go ahead and let's just add a padding of 10 pixels or something like that. Okay. Cool. So that looks pretty good. Let's try doing this. Let's try adding a text align center to my middle nav. All right. That looks even better. Okay. So on this, what I'm going to do now, let's inspect here. Nope, not that. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to inspect these specific elements, and I'm just going to, I can see I have this padding, right? So I'm going to split this up first by, let's see, not that. So we'll say 10 pixels and then 10 pixels. Okay, and so I'm going to use this to control the top, bottom, and left, right, just like always. Okay, so if I go up to 15 here, maybe, that looks good, and then I'm going to spread them out and just keep spreading them out till I like it. Let's keep it at 30 right now. Okay, so we have 15, 30. 15 pixels, and then 30 pixels, right? And I'm actually going to bump up my font size, and that will also probably require some adjustment. So let's do this again. Let's actually figure out which font size we want first. If we look here, that's actually pretty close. Maybe let's go up to 25, see what that looks like. Okay, so that looks pretty good, which means I'm going to just need to drop this down a little bit. Whoops. There we go. Okay. There we go. So let's actually drop it down to 20. Okay, so 1520, font size 25. All right, so adjust that. 1520, font size 20. Oops, 25 pixels. Fresh. There we go.
Question.
Yeah.
So the spacing between those elements, like about downloads and
Mhm.
how did you get it? Did you get it for free or you?
I use the padding.
Okay.
Yeah, so the padding is creating both the space on top and bottom and on the
How many
sides.
spaces between the text? Did it come with the order list?
Yeah, like in between here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the padding of it. Yeah. So the padding. So basically, the size of the element here is this is the full size of the element, right? And then I'm saying, give me 15 pixels on each side here and 20 here of padding, so that it's pushed. Basically, it's creating that space that's on either side. Yeah. Go ahead.
That is on each of them, right?
Yeah, and that's on each of them. That is correct, right? So if I hover over each one, you can see the green on.
Okay.
Excuse me, on each
So
one.
without that, they will be all lumped together.
Yeah, here, if we take this off, there you
Oh,
go.
I
All
see.
right, so they're one right after another, no padding on
Do you
top of
use
the
a
side.
margin with that, or just padding?
Well-
Just space out the.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
in this case, it actually does the same thing.
Okay.
That's not always the case that it'll be the same, but
So generally, you would say use padding if you want to spread out. Like,
not necessarily. This is gonna be one of those annoying, like, vague answers where it's you kind of have to play around with both of them to figure out which one's going to be best.
okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll do the same thing. Sometimes it'll adjust a little bit differently. So, yeah. Okay, cool. So then let's see. I'm gonna come up here. Let's bring this back up, and actually on that mid div or middle nav, excuse me. Let's go ahead and let's add this box shadow on there as well.
How'd you get? Remember when you were saying on that they were all bunched in together? How'd you get them to move to the center?
Good question. On this middle nav, the parent one,
Uh-huh.
I said text align center.
Oh, so it's through the parent. That you
Yeah, the parent is going to say align all of my children in the center.
Oh, okay.
So there we go. Okay, so that accounts for that one. Okay, so let's we do need to finish up here in just a second because we have a tech talk. So we can continue this after it, but just so that we can get a little bit of an idea of where we're going, I'm going to go ahead and add in. All right, now that we've ended middle nav, let's say we'll start main content and the main content. Okay. So we'll create that main content div right here. All right, and this main content div is going to be holding all of this, right? And so just to give you a little bit of an idea, we'll say main content. We're not going to give it a width, but we'll give it a min height of, we'll just start with 500 pixels, okay? That now kind of pushes that down. So you can see that the effect that box shadow has in kind of recreating that look right there. Okay. Now let's just go ahead and we'll add in, we'll call this main left, and we just have this list, right, of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items. Okay. All right, and let's just add those in really quickly. All right, docs, audio visual talks, beginners guide, developers guide, PP index, Python books, and FAQ. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh this. Cool. So that is way over there. Not really what we want it to look like. So let's let's go ahead, and it looks actually like we want to kind of keep this the same width. Everything else is the same width as this top guy, or as, excuse me, as this middle nav. So if we look back here, and we can see that middle nav had a width of 900 pixels. So I'm actually going to also give this a width of 900 pixels, just so everything stays main content. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so now it's kind of pushed everything in a little bit. Cool, so you can see main left right now is still, we still have it as display block. So let's go ahead and add, we'll say inline block. Let's give it a padding of like 50 pixels. Okay, width of 300 pixels. There you go. So now it's taking up much less of the space. We could probably even drop that down to like 250 pixels. There you go. That looks a little bit better. So I'm going to copy these over. And these are all on main left. Okay. Once again, I'm going to cheat and say main left, just so we can see everything. Make all those, oops, make all that text white. Okay.
Looks like it's centered.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that then. Let's say, so we said everything centered out. Okay, now this is one of those annoying things where even though we center the text, the bullet isn't going to follow it. Okay, so in this scenario, I'm actually just going to say main left UL li. Okay, nope, that's not it. List style type. Yeah, we'll just knock those away for right now. Okay, and then we can also do some things, right? Let's go ahead and just give it a little bit of a padding, and bump the font size up to maybe 15 pixels. Okay, and that's pretty small. Let's go 20. Cool. And there we have that left side, right? Now, well, we can talk about the little arrows, but I'm not going to worry too much about those for right now. Okay, so when we come back after the tech talk, we'll continue to talk about this and just kind of finish this page out. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
When you say you were cheating, does that mean we're not allowed to use little star thing that you're
Oh no, no. You definitely can.
Okay.
Just be careful because this means that everything I add inside of that will be left. It is in this scenario. It doesn't matter because this is actually all that I have, so it actually works out well. So I shouldn't have said I'm cheating. It's actually it's totally applicable in this scenario. Just be careful though because you want to use the star as little as possible, just because it can start to have really weird effects where you're not expecting it, just based on how it's like trickling down to everything else. So just be very careful with it. In this case, it works perfectly fine. Yeah, very good question. Okay, cool. So we'll meet up again maybe 3:34ish to finish out this assignment. Was this at least a little bit helpful? Yeah. Okay. Cool. We'll keep doing this. I'll go ahead, Innocent.
So in this case, we can get rid of the, like say on the text, we can get rid of the bullet points. Oh, those
I don't
things
think
might
there's this type of problem in any of the exams.
be- Okay.
Yeah, if you're curious, ask me and I'll let you know of that specific example in the exam.
Alright, cool.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed, you don't use like I would have already used like the position thing. Is that
You don't need to use it very often.
okay? Yeah, I was
Yeah.
using it a lot, and
Yeah,
it
so
creates problems.
it does. Yeah, it can create a lot of problems. Yeah.
I move it absolute 5 pixels, my whole page blows up.
They talk at 230.
I believe it's a 2. Yeah, so that's why we kind of